Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Raising a Mogul with Tamara Zantel, Raising a Mogul TV, and also podcast. I'm very excited to have you all here this evening. And I am coming to you with yet another very special guest. You know how I do. I'm always looking to bring you inspiration and motivation and all that jazz. So I will let you all coming into the room, join this broadcast, and at any point you have any questions, throw them in the comments below, and I promise you, myself and my guests will get, whenever we get a chance, we will call you out and answer those questions. Welcome once again to Raising a Mogul TV and podcast. I am your host, Tamara Zantel, and I come here weekly with tips, tools, and thoughts from leaders that can help you and me better nurture, support, and manage our young mogul, our kids. Yeah, we're talking a little bit about parenting. We're talking about education. We're always throwing a little business, but you know what? Whatever it is, it's all about us. And tonight's guest is no different. I am really excited to introduce to you my guest for this evening, Dr. Lorenda Chisolm. So Dr. Chisolm is a central office school administrator with the Buffalo Public School District. Prior to holding this position, I'm a little tongue-tied tonight, she served as a secondary principal, assistant principal, and school counselor. She is also a proud product of the Buffalo Public School System. How amazing is that? You start there and you lead there, right? Dr. Chisolm holds, obviously, a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's in counseling and human services, a second master's in educational leadership and supervision from Canisius College. And she recently, just earned her doctorate of education in educational leadership and policy from the University of Buffalo. Now, listen. I know Dr. Lorinda, and I also know that she's an avid traveler. She has been everywhere from Dubai, Ghana, Zambia, Africa, Belize, Central America. I cannot wait to talk about all this, So she is known for, and has also received numerous recognitions for her hard work and dedication in the fields of education and, of course, school leadership. Most importantly, I want to let you know that Lorinda is a proud mother of 15-year-old daughter, Aziza. And she's also a member of St. John Baptist Church, and she's an very active member of the sorority Delta Sigma Theta. So without further ado, I would love to introduce you to my guest, Dr. Lorinda. Hey.
Tamara, how are you?
I'm wonderful. So listen, the cat's out the bag. I'm going to let you guys know. It felt really weird reading her bio. All amazing accolades. I'm reading it dang, girl, what have I been doing all my life? But the interesting thing about this is Lorinda and I are actually friends. She's actually one of the first friends that I made when I moved to Buffalo, New York from Boston, Massachusetts, when we were 16?
16, high school, yeah.
Yeah, high school. That's a big deal to still be, as old as we are now and still have a connection to somebody that was there. When I tell you she showed me the ropes, she was there when I get lost on the bus, I didn't know how to find stuff, all kinds of stuff. We talked about going to school together. We were connected.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. She was Frick and I was Frack, or I was Frack and she was Frick, or whatever. But whatever it is, we did it and we did it well. And we had a little bit of fun too. Yeah. Yeah, so welcome, Lorinda. Thank you so much for being my guest this evening. I'm very grateful that you said yes.
And I feel very honored to have been asked, so thank you.
Absolutely. So one of the things I said that I want to first celebrate right off the top is that you are actually an official doctor. You just recently graduated, so congratulations for that.
Thank you.
That's huge, and I know it was a long time coming. So tell me a little bit about this feeling, transitioning. So you've been in education, obviously, and obviously high level education. What is it like when you finally walk the stage and it's official and you get home that night and you still got to do dishes and go
Well, what I can say is it certainly is a journey and a process. And it's a different type of journey for every traveler who decides to take that path to that terminal degree. How I feel now is a little bit of relief. It took a while to get here. I think it takes about a year to come down from all of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't believe it, but it was a long 5 years. So when I tell you I feel relieved, I could actually pick up a novel and enjoy reading something that I want to read.
Right. That you want to choice, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So,
Wow. That's amazing. Well, congratulations for that.
thank
That's
you.
really good. Really, really good. So one of the largest things that I'm really intrigued about when I read your bio and knowing you, and you've always been about education. You've always been about learning. I mean, one of the things I did not mention is our first job was at the library. We were library.
Yes, it was.
Together. Yes. We were actually library. So we were surrounded by books, by education, by learned scholars, you know?
Yes.
So, and Lorinda was always the friend that I knew would keep me on track, you know, that was like, okay, so what are we going to do about our future? So, okay, that's great, but we can have fun, but how is this going to look, you know? So you being that kind of person and have achieved as much as you have, you know, tell me, and then you have this amazing daughter, you know, how did you balance it? How did you balance this, you know, being a scholar and going after your dreams and attacking this education goal that you had while raising a talented daughter?
It wasn't easy. And I know I'm speaking from a single mother perspective, but I wasn't always a single mother. So initially, you know, I was married for 10 years. So I did have some support. And it was actually during my doctoral process that I ended up going through the divorce.
Oh, wow.
So, and then having to learn how to navigate doing things independently on your own while still raising your daughter and still finishing school. And I'll be the first to admit I did actually consider taking time off with all that was going on, but I knew I would never be able to forgive myself if I didn't complete or finish what I started.
Right.
And as a mother of a young woman, especially today, it was even more important for me to be that example of all that you can do regardless of your circumstances or situations or things that life puts in front of you that you did not plan for. So that was really, my daughter was really my driving and motivating force to finish. And like you said, education has always been important to me. As Malcolm X said, it's the passport to the future. So, and being a lifelong learner, I definitely wanted to exemplify what that looks like for my daughter. So
I love that. That's beautiful. So since you mentioned it,
yes.
The process of going from married as a parent,
Right.
because being a parent in general is hard enough, whether you have a partner or not.
Right, exactly.
But it just intensifies and it gets more difficult, you know, as you're transitioning. So being in school is a whole different thing. Having a full-time job, working, you know, paying the bills, living life in general while raising a child is hard enough as it is. But then transitioning from being a married parent to being a single parent, how did you handle that in regards to your daughter?
The one thing I think that is important when you're going through a divorce, and depending on the person and the circumstances, you do feel isolated. You start to question yourself. You know, you might even need to see a counselor for a moment, and that's okay.
Yes.
You have to increase your support system, and that's okay. But in terms of handling it with my daughter, one thing I did not want to do was be absent because of where I was mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So I made sure that along the road, I was able to include her in things, not in terms of the divorce, going from married to divorce, but in terms of staying active with her school, making sure that we did things together. I didn't want to be lost in the moment and ignore her or make her feel the negative energy or whatever that
Right.
could have been going on that would adversely impact her at that time. And she was young. So, it even came down to me taking her to class with me, us having study times together in the library, having dinner on campus. But it was also a way to kind of expose her to what post-secondary life is like on a college campus too.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that you brought her along for the journey. And
Right.
that's what I think sometimes we as parents in general, when we go through things or we have hardships or we feel like, oh, because, in my experience, because I'm a two-time divorcee.
Yeah. That's okay too.
Yeah, that's okay. I love this. I like talking to you. That's okay. So, the end of a relationship or a partnership, it has to be mourned. It's the death of something.
It is.
It's over.
You grieve.
So you absolutely. And I think a lot of times we don't acknowledge that as for what it is. And we carry it around, and then there's guilt and there's all these things and you have the way you feel. There's all this stuff that we're going through, but we forget how it's affecting our children. We just think it's us. This is happening to me.
Right. And it's not.
Right. We forget that there's other people around us that could be affected or are affected by it, and then we could, like you said, I love the fact that you were intentional about including her in the process and, making sure you watched her and her needs were met as well.
Right.
I'm sure, absolutely sure that brought the both of you closer together.
It did. And, with that, you have to validate where people are and their feelings too. So even in that whole situation, and even for myself, making sure that I communicate that it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to go to that place, but you just can't stay.
Right.
So that was something that was articulated verbally and through actions clearly. So.
I like it. That's awesome. That's good. That's a good lesson to learn. I think a lot of parents need to hear that. I was joking about you saying that's okay, but I think that phrase is actually quite important, because we all need people at some point in our life to say, okay, it didn't work. That's okay. You're sad, you're angry, maybe a little pissed off, but that's okay, and the same thing, and not only for ourselves, but also our children to be able to see that, hear us say that, so they can be free to be who they are. And speaking of freedom in our children, when we were talking earlier, we talked about you mentioning that how us accepting that our children are different than we.
Right.
And embracing that and supporting that. Can you tell us a little bit about your feelings on that?
Yes. I've worked with children, I can't even tell you how many years. But in terms of being a parent, and I think part of it was, yes, your children look like you. They may have the same mannerisms as you, but they are individuals. And that's so integral to remember as you're raising independent people, young adults, and recognizing who they are and validating them through that. That's really important. And especially in developing that self-confidence. That's something that I feel like we don't always do. We collectively, whether it's as a community or as parents, sometimes we need to learn how to speak life into our children.
Yes.
Do enough of that. And part of speaking life into them is saying, yes, you can, or, I support you in X, Y, and Z, still setting those parameters for specific things, but letting them know that I know who you are. I know you are an individual. I love you. I support you, but I'm not going to let you, make terrible mistakes. It's okay to make some mistakes, but I'm not going to let you put yourself in a situation where you're going to hurt yourself.
Right.
But yeah, validating them, supporting them, and speaking life into them.
Those are three amazing things: validation, support, and speaking life. Good stuff. I really believe that if we can adopt, some of those principles, as the cycle continues, we'll end up with better people.
Right.
Because I'm a firm believer that a lot of the adults that we're surrounded by today are the way they are because somebody shut them down when they were young.
Right.
You know, and didn't allow them to explore their creativity and really blossom into who they were supposed to be. You know, and I think I look at my 2-year-old granddaughter now, and she already has this amazing, fierce, aggressive spirit. Like I can totally look at her and I'm like, I know who you're going to be.
Yeah.
You know, or I have an idea rather, like how feisty she is, and just she's forming. You know, I know she has a lot more shaping and all this to do, but the fact that when just her freedom and how easy she is, you know, she's forming into who she's going to be.
Yes.
And then the children start to develop, and we as parents, our fear, our worry, our desire to fix them and make them be, stifles their growth, I believe. You know, I think we sometimes enhance, you know, some of the fear that goes along normally with growing up and maturing.
Right.
You know, by reminding them all the terrible things, you know, and all the terrible ways you can die today.
Right. All the anxiety. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know, as opposed to just allowing them to, you know, some things like you said, like, I'm not going to let her make terrible mistakes, but she has to make some.
Correct. And that's part of the learning. That's part of the learning.
Right. And if she doesn't make it, you're right. And she's not learning. And I think that's a key point, because a lot of parents feel like, oh, my child, this happened, that means I'm terrible. Then the guilt sets in. It's like, I did it all wrong. I don't know where I went wrong with that kid. You know, sometimes it's just a part of the plan. You know, it's supposed to happen. And I often go back and look at myself and the mistakes I made, some that my parents know about, some they don't. And I'm like... And I'm like, Dad, God, I learned from it. Thank you, Lord. And now
yes.
You know what I mean?
But look at how that shapes who you are.
Exactly.
You know, moving forward as you develop and you grow, and how you can inform other people in terms of your experiences based upon those things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So tell me how, we talked about this transition, we talk about you allowing your daughter to be, and as she's growing, and we talk about you all being drawn closer together through the divorce. So how do you where's the balance come in here with you all being friendly but not necessarily being friends?
That is my biggest thing. Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to start with this, and I'm even wearing my educator hat at this point, because I can't tell you how many times I've worked with students, and I've had to have parents come in and they're openly using profanity with each other like it's okay. Or the kids are talking to their parents any which kind of way, until I let that child know, you know, when you get in the car and when you get home, that's on you and your mother or your whoever. But while you're in this office in front of me, that's a no-go.
Right.
We shut it down right there. And then I think, I don't know if it's a generation of us overcompensating for not wanting to necessarily be like our parents, as strict as our parents. And so now we're swung to the other end of the pendulum. But for me, it's important to be friendly with your kids, but not to be friends with your kids. Maybe we get to be friends when you turn 30. I don't know. 21 when we can go have a cocktail.
Right.
Well, then we are not friends. And so there is that healthy level of respect that has to take place and has to be set between child and parent. And not just child and parent, but child and adult.
Absolutely.
Period. So
I love that. The healthy level of respect.
Yes.
And that's something, I swear, it's like a lost art. It sounds so terrible, but you just don't experience it enough.
No,
and I absolutely agree, because I feel like I've struggled with this. You know, when you say, I'm never going to be like my mother, or I'm never going to, you know, let my kids experience some of the things I experience. And it's like, but that's why you're still alive.
Right. Right.
Well, and thriving, you know.
Right. And then how many times as parents do we reflect like, now I know exactly what my mother was saying. Now I feel like my mother. Now I get it. I totally thank you, Mom. You know,
everything you said you were not going to become, you're like,
Right.
It all comes full circle. But I get, so I totally get how some parents say they're not going to be, or they're not going to do, or they spend all this time resisting. But then it has to be a moment when you watch it or you feel it start to spin out of control. That time when they yell a cuss word or slam the door or slam the car door and march down the street, or the day they don't come home at night, they're 14 or 15, or you come home and there's a boyfriend on the couch, whatever that looks like and shows up for you, the listener or whoever's watching, like, that's when you realize, like, oh my goodness, so I don't know, and I don't know, how people, and I just want us to understand that once you feel that, you experience that, it's not too late.
Right. It's not too late. It's not too late. I mean, it even starts earlier than just, having a teenager. It starts with what our expectations are for our kids very, very early. And you kind of set the tone in terms of what you expect in your home and what you expect when you are out in the streets and you're representing your mother and your father and your household. So those expectations are set very early. Those little 1-year-olds twerking.
Nope.
Now. It's not cute, and it's not cute enough to post on Facebook Live or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of setting the tone early, setting those expectations early. So you don't have to feel like your child can't come and talk to you or has to sneak out behind your back. Now, I'm not saying kids don't do that.
Right.
We all did it.
We all did.
We did it. Tomorrow, we all did it. But, you still... You want them to take healthy risks, not those risks that are going to jeopardize the relationship that they have with their families, with their parents, or that you do come home and you find a girl, a young man or a young woman in your house with your son or daughter, because the tone hasn't been set in terms of what the expectations are as a young man or a young woman.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's good. That's good. Beginning, as opposed to teaching them and treating them as if they're a baby, it's like another thing that drives me insane. It's like you see people and it's like, oh, well, she's only 3. It's still cute. No, it's not cute.
No, it's not.
It's not. And then as soon as you turn around or something happens and they yell at you or they say a bad word to you or they roll their eyes at you, then you're like, you have a nerve to be appalled. Yeah, okay.
Right. When you made it acceptable earlier. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So they're looking at you like, what's wrong? We've always played like this. This is what we've always done, So being an educator and a leader in your community, what would you say that we as a community of parents, mentors, and educators need to do better to support our youth?
I think we need to be more, and it may sound very cliche, we need to look out for each other's children. We need to look out for each other. We need to look out for each other's babies without feeling, taking it personal, or without taking it to heart when someone else is addressing your child. Or we just need to go back to kind of like it takes a village. And part of that village is, we need to hold each other accountable while holding our children responsible. We need to be more nurturing. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, and I'm not saying we don't do it. I'm just feeling like we don't do it enough.
Right.
In terms of how we treat each other, how we expect our children to treat others, our interactions sometimes in the community, in schools. It used to be a time I could tell you when I skipped school and my mother got that phone call, and it wasn't going into school and questioning the teacher. It was, well, it came down to me first. So I had to let me go into the school and find out why my child was able to get out of school or not show up to school. We need to put some responsibility on our students. Hold them, our children, hold them accountable, but we also need to be able to feel okay with supporting and each other as a community. And I don't think we do that enough. And I'm just looking at it from the school's perspective too.
Do you think that fear has anything to do with that? like when we think about fear when it comes to, because I feel like a lot of parents, because the relationship they have with their children and how they don't want their children disciplined. And I think we're just all hung up on the way my kid is treated, so they don't, even the parents don't respect the authority, especially in leadership and when it comes to education. So you get a lot of feedback or a lot of pushback.
Right.
Or even I could just be at the fair or at the grocery store, at the laundromat, and I can just, I feel uncomfortable and I second guess myself if someone's child is doing something, unless they're like in deep danger. You're
right.
But if they're doing something inappropriate or talking out of turn or whatever, you have that fear of like, if I say something, will the mama, papa, am I going to have going to be, some kind of negative interaction? What kind of feedback will I get? So I
think there is a fear. I hear what you're saying. Like, and that's what my point is. We shouldn't have a fear of being able to say, oh no, sweetheart, don't do that. Or you may not want to run around this store because you're going to get hurt. And then you have a parent saying, don't talk to my child. You don't have the right to say anything to my kid. Da, da, da. We should not have to be that way. Right. My thing is, and I'll tell everybody, if you see my child acting up in the streets, you have every right to address them. Don't put your hands on them, but you can address them. You know what I'm saying? Say something to them, because I'm expecting you to make sure my child is just as safe as you may be expecting me to keep your child safe.
Absolutely.
We walked away from that piece, and that's that village piece that I was referring to. It shouldn't be a problem for us to address each other's children. We do it properly.
I agree. There goes the doggies barking. What happened?
That's okay.
It's all part of the whole momager, mompreneur, work from home life. What can I say about it?
Yes.
So I'm going to pause really quickly and see if we have any questions from anybody that may be watching. We have a couple people watching. They're just saying hello to you.
Hi.
Dr. Lorinda. That's Sister Jackie. Amber. Hello, Amber. Hello, Stephanie Valentine.
Hey,
thank you for joining us. If you could, and if you would not mind, please share this out. Tag a couple of your friends, because they need to hear this. They need to hear what Dr. Wren has to say. Tonight, we're talking about our children, and we're talking about education. We're talking about community. We're talking about leadership. And how that all shows up in our homes and also in educational systems and how it affects our children. Right. So this is a great topic. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. And I think we're talking about love too, because when we care about each other and we do right by each other, we're love. It's love.
Right. Absolutely. So how would you say we connect with the youth? We connect with these young people. And I know you being so deep in the education system, like you said, you've been around children. This is what you do, at different age ranges, I'm assuming.
Right.
So how do we connect with them, where they are right now, them, like who they are right now, while inspiring them and supporting them to be greater tomorrow?
Right. One of the things I've always told my students is I am fair, but firm. I will hug you and get on you at the same time. The thing about reaching young adults, and I think that has been where my experiences lied in terms of, and coming from a law enforcement background too, that was something else. You remember spending time
wait a minute. We
didn't talk about that yet, but
we did not talk about that. We did not talk about that. How did I forget that, you guys?
Yes.
How did I forget that?
Yes, but that's related. So when you think about communicating with different segments of the population, and
can I tell you the first time I saw my girlfriend in a uniform? Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry. And she's only like this big. So, okay. Like she has all this personality. She's literally like this big. Funny. Protecting and serving, honey.
Protecting and serving. That's right. Yes, definitely. But that also carries over into education, because, you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to serve the needs of various members of the community. And you have to be able to pick up on those nonverbal cues, especially working with young adults, young teenagers. When I started as an assistant principal, I actually started as a school counselor in a suburban school district. And I applied for assistant principalship. And where I ended up being assigned was actually the the second lowest performing school in the district. And really, I swear it's because my experience came from a high performing school district. I was African American, and I had law enforcement background. And then I was a principal of an alternative education program. And I think that's where people kind of felt my niche was, even though it was hard work, right?
Right.
But the key with that is you have to be consistent, you have to be firm, but you can also be nurturing. And for a lot of the students that some people feel like are too challenging or difficult, honestly, I don't know why, but those are my favorite students. But in terms of connecting with them, you really have to be authentic, because I'll tell you, one thing that a lot of students don't have is that consistency. They have some people that say they'll be there and the next minute they're not. The other thing about that is you have people that try to create these connections, but they're not authentic. So they think that they can get in good with kids if they talk about XYZ, or if they try to overprove themselves. And kids, let me tell you, these teenagers, they pick up on it like
they really do. They really do.
And they are quick to shut you down and shut you out. So if you don't show them that you're nurturing, consistent, firm, but fair, and that you actually really do love and like them, because I could love you, but I don't have to like you. You know what I'm saying? It's like my kids. I have to love you, but I don't have to like you.
Right. I struggle with that.
Okay. And the kids will know that. And that's been something that I feel is really important, especially as educators, if you're in an urban district working with minority populations, whether it's African American, Black, brown kids, ENL students, high students, schools where there's a high level of students with disabilities. You have to be able to connect to your students, and it has to be authentic. And that's the best thing I could say.
I love that. Authentic connection. And it's true. They can pick up on it, and they see
through. They really can. Yes, they do. And they will tell you.
Well, I mean, they have so much training, like for us, what was it called when we were younger? Like street smarts or whatever. I don't know what you call it nowadays, because it's like street smarts, internet smarts, society, like they're getting the information from so many.
Savvy. They're
very savvy. Very. And even though they stare at their phones all day, or whatever technology they're carrying around, they're still being constantly fed information. Right. And so I definitely think it's important for us to not try to match that or compete against that, but just really just, like you said, be authentic and have a really good understanding of what it is that they need that they're not getting.
Right. Right.
That's good.
Right.
That's really good. And so how much this is just a kind of random, but it's on topic a little bit. So in regards to everything you just said, I'm curious, as when you go to be an educator and you can be my son's science teacher or psychology teacher or whatever, Spanish teacher, how much training does that teacher get in what we just talked about? And that kind of like that sensitivity training, or that,
diversity training?
Yes.
Yes, not a lot.
Because I'm wondering.
Not in terms of coursework. Not in terms of coursework. Of course, we all have to take human development, human growth and development, those type courses. Teachers and counselors or what have you go out into field experience, where they're immersed into school buildings and they're shadowing or interning with someone in their field that they're aspiring to go into. But really, in my mind, I don't want to say baptism by fire, but you have to be in the trenches and you have to have that experiential learning. And some of that you will not, most of it you will not get out of a textbook. You can go with all the theory that you want, but when you hit the classroom, that's its own theory.
So it's like parenting. It's like parenting.
It's like parenting. Yep.
It doesn't exist. I mean, I understand they're not your children, but you just, it's by experience, and you get better as you go along. I wish there was, but actually the education system does offer parents an opportunity to learn some of these techniques. Yeah. So so the parents out there that are actually take advantage of them, I just think it's a great opportunity to be better at your job. And I think sometimes we don't look at our role as mom or dad as an actual, like we spend more time and dedicate more time and energy than we do studying and preparing for our actual 9-to-5 job than we do being a parent.
Right.
That's why I just feel like we're like, oh, the baby's here. Let's figure it out. Like, guess we'll just do what everybody else said I should do. But you don't do that in your job. Why? Because you're afraid of getting fired. You know what I mean? You're afraid of getting fired, or your check's not going to be right.
Right.
So when it comes to parenting, you have to give it that same dedication. Be just as dedicated, just as willing to win. You know, do your research, invest your time, your energy, your resources, into understanding what your kids need, in addition to a little bit about what they want, understand who they are as an individual.
Correct.
And tap into that and explore that.
Right. And part of that is even making sure you know who you are.
Oh, goodness.
You know what I'm saying? Making sure that you know who you are. And to kind of go back a little bit, as parents, we are our child's first teacher.
Yes.
And there is not training for that. So, and parents are the most influential persons, and especially in determining a child's success. So,
can you say that again? Parents are the most influential.
Yes, persons in determining their child's success.
Y'all hear that? You hear that?
That's even before they hit the school and the classroom. And that's research. It's really the mother's education is what is really the primary determining factor, or one of the key factors. But, we need to know who we are. We even need to know our limitations, and making sure, again, that we're putting our children around positive people that will support them. If you can't do it, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to make sure I allocate or find those resources that can support me in doing X, Y, and Z. And this is where I'm going to put in a plug, because there are programs and services and classes available through our parent centers. Yes, I'm doing this.
Go ahead and do it.
Through Buffalo Public Schools, and there's 4 of them. So if parents go to the website, they can go to look up parent and family engagement and look up where some of the parent centers are located. I know one is at Bennett, one's at South Park, and look at some of the classes and course offerings that are there, and how you can support your children in school and even at home.
Absolutely. It's a partnership.
Yes, it is.
In school, it's a partnership. And that's one of the things that if we as parents understand that right from the beginning, it's very cute. The first day, Bobby's first day of school, and little Christina goes to wherever, and, Mikey starts first, and the pictures and all that. But do you know the teacher? Did you talk to the teacher? How involved are you? And like when they come home, they say, oh, it was fine. I have nothing.
Right.
No. Because this is what I read, this is what I heard, and this is what me and Mrs. So-and-so talked about, Exactly. So absolutely, parent engagement is huge. It's absolutely huge. So
and there's a difference between involvement and engagement.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. So let me pause again and see if anyone has any questions.
Okay.
So Stephanie Valentine says, yes, set the tone and be the example.
Yep.
Amber, yeah, you're right, Amber. She said it takes a village. Amber wants to know, do you think what do you think is the most pressing issue for young ladies, especially of color today, and how can parents and communities resolve that?
The most pressing issue, in my opinion, with young women of color is self-esteem. Self-esteem. I won't say confidence, because we have a lot of young women that are very confident. Very confident.
Yes. But they're two different things.
There's 2 different things. Yes, they are. And confidence could be a good thing, and confidence can also be, negative if it's a level of overconfidence. So, Amber, in regards to that, I would say self-esteem. I feel like our women are looking for validation, and sometimes in all the wrong places. And part of that could be because, and I'm looking at young women in terms of some of the things that they say, they do, their dress, the attention that they seek from the opposite sex, or even from those of the same sex. Sometimes where that comes from is there's something missing in terms of a male model in their lives that are validating them appropriately. and making sure that they know it's not how you look on the outside, or right on the outside, but how you look on the inside, because eventually that's going to fade.
Absolutely.
But what's on the inside that's going to stay with you, that makes you beautiful. And part of that is making sure that we let them know that they are loved, that they are validated, and that you don't need to necessarily seek validation always from someone from the outside, especially if we're seeking it the wrong way. So in my mind, that's one of the things that I see as a parent, as a community person, as an educator, that our girls could use a little bit more help and support in. And again, that starts at home. That might even involve, you're asking how we can kind of solve that as a community, involving them in some positive activities. They don't need to necessarily be out on the streets all hours of the night. What are they doing when they are home? How much quality time is being spent with them, with their mother or their father? And what does that quality time look like? So not just how much time, but what are you doing with that time? Lots of organizations in the community. You have Delta Gyms, you have other sororities, community agencies that work with young women, specifically young women of color, to encourage them in becoming precious jewels as they mature and what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like transition through high school and from young adults into young women. So,
to womanhood. That's good. Amber says, thank you. Excellent feedback, Dr. Chisolm. Shatrina says she mentioned the word voids. Thank you for being here, Shatrina. Yep. And she said, well said, self-esteem. Yannick says self-esteem, involvement and engagement. Okay. So Amber asked the same question twice. Got it. Okay. I think if there's no other questions, thank you for answering that. That's
no problem.
Watching and they're all like, get it. So along those lines, my next question actually for you was, as a mom of a girl, growing up in today's society with all these false images and drama and all this distracting and, distracting outside influences, they're a real force, a force to be reckoned with. I almost feel like I'm fighting, like I'm in competition with the world sometimes, the outside influences with my children. How do you keep Aziza grounded? How do you keep her protected and enlightened?
The good thing is Aziza kind of has this, sometimes she got to keep me grounded. Let's keep it 100. She has a really good spirit about her. And I will say that. And, she is a great person. And I think that's what we all want for our kids, to develop great people. Of course, I want you to be a good leader, a good role model, a good this, a good that, but I want you to be a good person, point blank, period.
Even when nobody's watching.
That's integrity.
Yes.
That's integrity. What you do when nobody is watching. But for her, I make sure that we stay engaged in conversations. I don't ever want us to be able to be in the same room and not talk. I don't want things to appear on the social network and internet or on TV and we don't have a conversation about it. Because if I don't have it, somebody else will. And there's no telling how what kind of misinformation they might feed her. So I want to make sure that we keep open the lines of communication and we always have conversations, and allowing her to give her opinion, whether I agree or dissent. And that's a part of allowing her to be her own individual and having her own voice and learning to advocate for herself by having varying differences of opinions and being able to have those and do it respectfully. But that communication and keeping her grounded is really based in our conversations that we have around things that happen in the community and around the world.
If you're wondering, if you're trying to figure out how to get to your kids, how to really understand them, how to connect with them, conversation is where it's at. If you're not talking to you now, if it's a little awkward at first, the more you talk to them, the more you show them your vulnerability and that, mommy's not perfect. Daddy's not perfect. We're not perfect. Sometimes we're not really sure what to do. That transparency in parenting, just like you're talking, that authenticity, just like you're talking about with education, it flows into the home as well. Actually that's where it starts, So, and that's one of the reasons I think our youth are so savvy and can see through, the not so honest.
Exactly.
Because they see things at home. They've been through so much. It's like,
Yes.
I've already read this book. You
Right.
can't with me. You know,
and that's the thing, that people don't realize how much our kids actually have been through. And
Right.
so they don't even include that in terms of considering and getting to know our kids.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's a part of who they are. So you have to know your kids, period.
Right. Absolutely. That's it.
Yes.
That's it. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. And once again, I thank you so much. Can you tell us how we can connect with you or get to know you a little bit more or support you if you have any projects or anything coming up in the community or beyond?
Yes, absolutely. I don't have all this Twitter and all this other stuff, but I'm on Facebook and I'm under Lorenda Diane. So you're free to find me on Facebook. Hit me up on Facebook, message me, add me as a friend. If you have questions, let me know and I'll be happy to support. But I'm always trying to support everybody in the community. So you'll see me somewhere, I'm sure. So
yes, all over the place. And now she'll be out even more now that she's done, you know,
we'll
Dr.
see.
Ren officially.
We'll see. Yes.
Oh, Yannick, Pippa is reminding you about Aziza's trip. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yes, thank you, Yannick. So my daughter has an opportunity to take an educational excursion next summer with her school, a class trip to Australia and New Zealand. This is an expensive trip. It'll be her senior year. But, you know, there's so much more learning that happens in the world than happens in a classroom and in a textbook. So when she has an opportunity to immerse herself, to learn about other cultures, ways of life, it really helps to develop her and the other young women who get to participate in this. And so on November 4th, I will be hosting a fundraiser benefit for her at the Wellness Center from 5 to 9 or 6 to 9. And it'll be $25. That'll come out soon on Facebook. And that'll include one free cocktail, a raffle ticket for the silent auction, and light fare. So hopefully once that comes out, if people are interested in helping to support my child on this.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Thank you.
And you're here to hear first, folks. Like she said, it didn't come out yet. So Dr. Lorinda, please let me know. I know Xandra will be traveling. She's actually speaking in Atlanta that day, but we are committed to the raffle, to a ticket, and anything else that we can do to help.
I appreciate that.
And if anybody else is listening or watching and you also want to contribute, please reach out and do what you can, because we want to send Aziza to, where's she going?
Australia and New Zealand. And a lot of times our kids barely leave their own communities.
Yes. So she needs to go and experience and come back and teach somebody else what it was like and inspire them to also go. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So last question, legacy. What would you say that your young mogul would say the legacy you are leaving for her is?
In terms of a legacy that I believe my child would say that I left is that that I always supported her. I've always supported other people. I've always been a major supporter of others, and that hopefully she sees me as a model and exemplar of all that she is capable of doing and becoming herself. So
that's good. I like it. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Lorinda.
Thank you, Tamara.
Dr. Ren, thank you for being here. Thank you for dropping these nuggets, giving us some real meat, you know. That's what the show is about. It's not about, you know, us coming on here and just talking about all our success stories and how amazing everything is. It's about, listen, I'm here because I want moms and, you know, whoever, mentors, leaders that are listening, that touch our children to understand that you can too. Things we don't all have it, you know it all. You know, she just said her 15-year-old daughter schools her too, holds her down too. You know, our kids are unique and amazing. So let them be so. You know, there is no manual to this thing, this hardest job in the world. But I know that if you work hard at it, just as hard or harder at your day job and other things that you want for yourself, you will succeed and you will do it. And not only do it, but you will do it well. So I thank you all for joining myself. Thank you, Dr. Lorinda, once again for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time and the energy to support us this evening and give us all this juicy information that, you know what, I don't know if we would really get. Because how often you see people in leadership and, higher ranks in schools, and you're busy sowing seeds into all the many kids and the administrator and the faculty and all the, the people that you're leading. But how often do you get a chance to ask outright questions like Amber did and say, hey, I want to know how this works. I want to know, what do you think about? That's what we need to do as a community, to tap into each other's gifts, get the information. Most importantly, ask the questions when you don't know. Don't fake it. Don't fake it. If you don't know, say, I don't know. And guess what? I might need some help.
Right. And it's called social capital. That's something we really need to work and develop on. So yes, utilizing each other as resources and supporting each other. So thank you. I appreciate this opportunity, Tamara.
Thank you once again. So I appreciate you all. Thank you all for taking the time to join me this evening on Raising a Mogul with Tamara Zantel, the TV show, and also the podcast. I come to you every Tuesday and sometimes more, and bring to you weekly tips, tools, and thought leaders that can help you nurture, support, and manage your young mogul. Thank you all for joining us. And you all have, oh, wait, you know what? I didn't tell you how to find me. You can find me on Facebook and all social media at Tamara Zantel. Join my page, go like my page, Raising a Mogul with Tamara Zantel. And if you are a mom or a dad raising a young mogul, you should be in my Raising a Mogul community. If you're not, I don't know why. You're missing all the fun. That's where it's at. So have a good evening, everyone. I will see you very soon.